Hello everyone, and welcome to Paranormal Pathways. Today we're exploring the world of ghosts and spirits from viewer submissions. Let's dive in and find out exactly what that thump really was. I've always prided myself on being a rational and level-headed individual, often skeptical of ghost stories and paranormal tales my friends would share around campfires. But what I experienced one night in the old library made me question the boundaries of what we consider reality. The old library was notorious among students for being one of the most aged and least renovated buildings on campus. Its Gothic architecture, ornate wooden carvings, and dusty old tomes gave it an air of otherworldliness that was often subject to whispers and hushed tales among freshmen. Many avoided studying there, especially after dark. But being the skeptic that I was, I felt invincible against these childish legends. Besides, it was finals week, and the quieter, the better. On that particular evening, as the hours slowly bled into the depths of the night, I found myself engrossed in my studies at a remote table in the library's west wing. The silent atmosphere was punctuated only by the soft ticking of an ancient clock on the wall and the distant hum of the central heating. Suddenly, a cold tap on my shoulder jolted me from my concentration. Assuming it was just another student, or perhaps a librarian reminding me of the approaching closing hours, I swiftly turned around. But there was no one. The aisles with their rows and rows of bookshelves were eerily empty. A chill ran down my spine, not solely from the cold. Shrugging it off as my tired imagination, I returned to my notes. But not 2 minutes had passed when an audible thud echoed through the silent room. My gaze darted towards the sound, finding a solitary book lying face up in the aisle. The aged and slightly tattered cover read, "The Afterlife." Now, the skeptic in me tried to find an explanation. Perhaps it was a draft that knocked the book over, or maybe its placement on the shelf was precarious to begin with. But the cold tap on my shoulder, and now this, it felt too coincidental. Gathering my belongings, I decided it was time to leave. As I made my way to the exit, I couldn't help but glance back at the place where the book had fallen. In the dim light, I could have sworn I saw a faint silhouette of a figure watching me, but when I blinked, it was gone. The next day, I returned the book titled The Afterlife to its rightful place on the shelf, silently thanking whatever or whoever had given me that sign for their message, even if its meaning remained a mystery. To this day, I've never been able to fully explain what occurred that night, but one thing's for sure, I never studied alone in the old library again after dark. Late one evening, I found myself on a seldom-traveled road in the heart of the countryside. The air was dense, heavy with the scent of rain, though no rain had fallen that day. The trees on either side of the road created a tunnel of darkness, with only my headlights cutting through the murk. As I approached an old bridge, one I couldn't recall having crossed before, an eerie feeling enveloped me. It wasn't fear exactly, but more an instinctual gut feeling that something was out of place. The bridge, covered in moss and showing its age, creaked under the weight of my car. I felt a moment of unease, pondering the last time any maintenance had been done on this ancient relic. It was when I was about halfway across that it happened. From the depths of the shadows, a figure emerged. A woman, draped in a white gown, appeared just ahead of my vehicle. My heart raced as I slowed the car. She didn't seem solid. Her form was translucent, as if I was seeing an apparition from another time. She didn't walk or move like the living. Instead, she seemed to float above the ground, her eyes empty voids, reflecting the car's headlights. The most haunting part, though, was that she was mouthing something, over and over again, though no sound came out. I can make out the word, "beware." Frozen and unsure of what to do next, I considered reversing or turning around, but an inner voice told me to continue. After what felt like an eternity, I passed where she stood, looking into my rearview mirror, half expecting her to have vanished, but she remained, still mouthing that warning. Then, just as I was processing what I'd seen, another car, its headlights blinding, came speeding around a bend on my side of the road. I swerved just in time, narrowly avoiding a head-on collision. My heart pounded in my chest as I pulled to the side, trying to catch my breath. Shaken, I soon realized that the warning from the woman in white might have saved my life. I turned around, intending to go back to the bridge and perhaps offer my thanks, or see if I could help her in any way. But when I reached the spot where I had seen her, there was nothing. No trace of the ethereal woman in the flowing white dress. I later learned from locals that the bridge was notorious for accidents. Many claim to have seen the woman in white, a spectral guardian who tried to prevent further tragedies. To this day, I can't explain what I saw, but I'm forever grateful to that mysterious apparition. I rarely travel that road now, but when I do, I approach that bridge with the utmost respect and caution, ever watchful for the woman in white and her life-saving warning. Hey, so I'm not really sure how to start this because I've never shared anything like this before, but something weird happened and I just need to get it out. Maybe someone out there can tell me I'm not going nuts. My friends and I love doing late night dares, especially around creepy places, and there's this old amusement park on the outskirts of our town. It's been abandoned for years and everyone says it's haunted. We've all heard the stories, but I never really believed them. Until last night. So it's like midnight. My friend dared me to hop the fence and just walk around the park. I mean, it's run down and overgrown, but I thought, whatever, I can do this. I was wondering for a bit, not really paying attention, just trying to make sure I didn't step on a rusty nail or something. But then I heard music, like old-timey carnival music, the kind that used to play in the background of carousels in the early 1900s. I turned to look, and to my shock, the old carousel was spinning. All the lights were on and the animals were moving up and down, and there, sitting on one of the horses, was a lone rider. It looked like a young kid, maybe about my age, laughing and waving as if having the time of their life. No one else was around, and I swear I hadn't seen anyone else when I entered. Plus, there's no way that old machinery could have just started on its own after years of neglect. Right? The kid looked so real and normal, just joyful. But as the carousel spun and the kid came back into view again, their face looked off. Pale and kind of translucent. I was frozen in place, just trying to process what I was seeing. The music continued to play, but it sounded slower and more distorted. And the laughter, it started to echo. I freaked out and bolted out of there. I met my friends at our meetup spot and they all laughed, thinking I was just trying to scare them. But I swear I wasn't making it up. The next day, curiosity got the better of me, and I went back to the park in the daylight. The carousel was silent and still, just as it should be, but right next to it was an in memoriam photo. It was faded and worn out, but the face was recognizable. It was the kid I saw on the carousel, looking happy. The plaque read something like, "In loving memory of our beloved son, the park's last joyful rider before the accident." Man, I've been getting chills thinking about it. I'm never going back there again. I just had to share this and hope someone believes me. I don't want any attention or anything, so please keep my name out of it. Just be careful around old places, alright? I've been a longtime viewer of your channel, and I never thought I'd be one of the people sending you a story, but here I am. I'd like to remain anonymous, so you can refer to me as Officer Silva. I've been serving as a police officer in Massachusetts for over 15 years. Until last month, I'd say my experiences on the force have been pretty standard, but there's one recent event that I just can't shake off. It was mid-September when the call came in about a missing hiker near the Hockomock Swamp, a place that falls within the notorious Bridgewater Triangle. I've heard the legends, as many of us locals have, but I've always been one to chalk them up to folklore and exaggerated tales. My duty that day was to search the southern part of the swamp, and if I found anything unusual, I was to report back. The fog was heavy that day, the kind that hangs low and obscures your vision. As I ventured deeper into the swamp, I started hearing faint whispers. I initially dismissed them as the wind playing tricks, or perhaps my radio picking up some interference. However, the whispers became clearer over time, almost as if someone was speaking just out of sight. I tried to radio back to base, but got nothing but static. That's when I saw them, figures that looked like humans but transparent and shrouded in a pale light. They moved through the trees just at the edge of my vision. There were at least 4 or 5 of them, appearing and disappearing like they were fading in and out of reality. And then, just as suddenly as they appeared, they vanished. In their place, I began to see small fires dotted across the swamp. These weren't regular fires, though. They were bluish in hue and emitted no heat. I approached one, trying to make sense of it, but it disappeared just as I was about to touch it. Shaken and unsure of what I'd just witnessed, I decided to head back. Thankfully, another search team located the missing hiker alive and well on the opposite side of the swamp. However, he had no memory of how he ended up there, which only deepened the mystery. I've tried talking to some of the older officers about my experience. A few nodded knowingly, saying they'd heard of or even seen similar occurrences in Hockomock over the years. Most just advised me to forget about it, insisting that the swamp has a way of playing tricks on the mind. I'm sending this to you because I needed to share it somewhere. Whether you decide to share it on your channel is entirely up to you. Just know that there's something truly inexplicable happening in the Bridgewater Triangle, and my encounter in the Hockomock Swamp is just one of many tales to attest to that. Stay safe, and thanks for listening. I've been following your channel, and I reckon you'd be interested in something bizarre that happened to me out near Talkeetna, Alaska. I'm not one to blab about every little odd thing that happens out in the woods, but this, well, it's been nagging at me. I spend a fair amount of time hiking around those parts, and I know most trails like the back of my hand. But this one time, I was trying a new route, a bit off the beaten path. It was a clear day, but you know how quick the weather can turn on you here. So I'm making my way through the dense spruce, feet crunching on the moss, and it's dead quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, more like the forest is holding its breath. That's when I saw something I can't rightly explain. Right there, standing between 2 trees, was this figure. It was all shimmery, like looking through a heat wave on a hot road, but it was maybe 10 degrees out. It didn't say a word with a mouth, you know, but somehow it got across to me that I shouldn't go any further. Something about the way it held up its hand. It was as clear as day. I stopped, real confused like, and I watched it. Then, as quick as it appeared, it was gone. Just a ripple in the air, and then nothing. I shook my head, thinking maybe I was seeing things. Too many nights listening to spooky campfire stories, maybe. But I figured caution beats out being foolhardy, so I turned to take a different route. Not 2 minutes later, I heard this rumbling, and I looked back to see the ground where I'd been about to step had given way. A hidden cliff edge, not marked on any map I'd seen, had crumbled, and it would have taken me right down with it. I've been racking my brain since, trying to make sense of it. I'm not one for ghost tales or legends, and I don't spook easy. But there's no denying what happened. The forest has eyes, I guess, and maybe something out there is keeping watch. Call it a guardian, spirit, or what you will, but I figure I owe it my thanks. Feel free to share this story, but keep me anonymous if you don't mind. People might start thinking I'm a bit touched in the head, but you and I know there's things in these wilds that don't always fit into our understanding of the world. Stay safe out there. I've got a tale from the Maine woods that's gonna sound nuts, but I swear it's true. Just keep me anonymous, okay? So, I'm out hiking in Maine. Love the quiet of the woods, right? Then I hear something odd. It's crying, but not an animal. Sounds like a young girl, all soft and sad. Being the kind-hearted Mainer I am, I decided to check it out, pushing through some thick brush to find the source. And what I find is straight out of a ghost story. There's this girl, but she's like mist, all see-through and dressed in these old-time clothes. She's just standing there, crying, and man, it was eerie. I'm not usually one to get spooked, but this was next level. She looks right at me with these big, sad eyes and whispers, "Help me." Just like that. Then, just as quick as she appeared, she vanishes. No trace of her left. I'm standing there feeling like a total fool, but also freaked out. I've been a hiker for years and have seen some weird stuff, but it's got me questioning everything. Was it a ghost? Some trick of the light? I don't know. But it felt real enough to send me packing and doubting my everything has a logical explanation belief. I just had to share this hair-raising thing that's been happening to me. So I picked up this old portrait at an estate sale here in the Dallas area. Thought it looked cool, you know? Well, that's where things got all kinds of weird. Every night, I swear, the guy in the painting, some old-time fellow with a stern look, he'd be in a different pose. One night, he's looking right at me. The next, his hands raised like he's warning me. Spooked me out, but I thought, nah, it's just my imagination. But here's the kicker. Each night, I'd have these vivid dreams where the guy from the painting is warning me about some danger lurking around. Real intense, like he's trying to tell me something important. I'm not one to believe in ghosts or anything, but this is just too bizarre. I've lived in Texas my whole life, and I've heard some wild ghost stories, but nothing like this. This is something straight out of a movie, and I'm just a regular guy trying to make sense of it. Thought you might find it interesting for your channel. Just keep my name out of it, alright? Don't need my buddies thinking I've gone off the deep end. I gotta tell you about the eerie stuff happening in my old house here in Indiana. This place ain't just any house. It was part of the Underground Railroad back in the day. Always thought it was kinda neat, but recently, things have taken a turn for the creepy. Almost every night, when it's dead quiet, I hear these chains. It sounds like someone's dragging them along the floor upstairs. The first couple of times, it scared the daylights out of me. I went up to check, thinking maybe something's broken, but there was nothing there. And it's not just the sound. Sometimes it feels like there's a chill in the air, right where the noise is coming from. But wait, it gets weirder. I've been seeing shadows too. It's like glimpses of people running through the house, through the hallways, past doorways, always just out of the corner of my eye. I turn my head and they're gone. And this one time, I swear I saw a shadowy figure standing at the end of my bed, just staring. I blinked and it vanished. I'm a pretty down-to-earth guy, not one for ghost stories, but this stuff, it's hard to shake off. It's like the history of this house is replaying itself or something. Gives me the chills just talking about it. I thought you might find this interesting for your channel. Just keep my name out of it, alright? Don't want the guys at work thinking I'm seeing things. I just had to write and tell you about this strange thing that happened with my roses. I'm from a small town in Alabama, and around here, we all take pride in our gardens. But this is something else. So these roses in my yard, they've been around for ages. Planted way back by a lady who used to live here. Nice old thing she was. Now, I've been trying to keep them roses going, but you know how it is. Sometimes they just don't want to cooperate. But get this, they bloomed overnight. I mean, full-on, gorgeous blooms like I've never seen before. It was stunning, sure, but kinda odd too. Here's the really weird part. Some of my neighbors started telling me they saw a lady out by my roses late at night. They said she looked just like the lady who planted them, the one from years ago. Now that lady passed on a long time ago, bless her heart. I didn't see this lady myself, but more than one person mentioned it, and it's got the whole neighborhood talking. I'm not one to believe in ghosts or anything, but I can't help but wonder. With the roses blooming so sudden and folks seeing this lady, it's got me thinking. Never thought I'd be writing to someone about something like this, but there it is. Anyway, thought you might find this interesting for your channel. Just keep my name out of it if you don't mind. Don't need people thinking I'm getting fanciful in my old age. So, I'm from SoCal, and I recently went on this road trip up the Oregon coast, right? Beautiful place, but something freaky happened. One night, I'm walking on the beach, and I see this lighthouse beam cutting through the fog. It was pretty chill, just the typical coastal vibe. But here's where it gets weird. The next day, I'm chatting with some locals, and I mention the lighthouse. They all go silent and then tell me that lighthouse has been out of commission for decades. No one's been up there to fix it or anything. But I saw that light clear as day. I thought they were pulling my leg, but they seemed dead serious. They even told me some old stories about the lighthouse and its keeper who vanished or something like that. Super eerie, right? I've seen my fair share of weird stuff back home. But a ghostly lighthouse? That's a new one on me. I don't know what to make of it, but it definitely gave me the creeps. Thought it'd be something cool and spooky for your channel. Just keep my name out of this, yeah? Don't need my buddies thinking I've gone all Hollywood with ghost stories.